We've taken from 0 to 7. A couple of them hit 8 figures within the first 10 months of each, just by implementing them into this marketing and sales system.
What fruit are they seeing from the business owner, the people in business that they know? Because you commented about people that are doing really well and who aren't. So to me, what my reaction to that is why we have to step up and be more bold.
It is funny though, to me, I just said this the other day to a buddy. I was like, man, you couldn't pay me to come out to one of these events for a free meal, but we've done hundreds of millions of dollars doing it.
Hello, and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. We are Kurt and Kristen Ludhart, your hosts and co-founders of the Prosper Group, an agency that's helped raise over $500 million and help elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and 1 president. So business owners, what if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a lucrative and engaged audience at 76.5 million people that we call Liberty Spenders? These Americans spend $5 trillion a year, and they're motivated to buy from businesses that share their values. If you want to learn more, you can get access to our new best-selling book at libertyspenders.com/free.
We're excited today to host Rylee Meek. He's a kingdom-minded entrepreneur and founder of the King's Council, a ministry empowering Christian entrepreneurs to fulfill their God-given vision. Starting with just $673. That's highly specific.
That's a very exact amount, right? Yes.
Rylee built 8, 7, and 8-figure companies using his social dynamic selling system, surpassing $250 million in sales. You can round when you get to 250. You don't have to say
the exact
like
number.
250 and $13 because it's a big deal at 250 alone. Best-selling author of the Kingdom Entrepreneur series and co-host of the King's Council podcast. Rylee inspires thousands with his high-energy talks on faith and business. We're excited for an impactful conversation.
Welcome.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Yeah, the 673, that was a very emotional moment in my life. So that's why I know that number very specifically.
We got to hear about it. That's a great lead in.
Let's start with that. How did that, tell us the story of 673 to 250 million. It's probably an easy path, but just
of course,
just nail it.
Straight, linear.
Lottery one a lot.
Just like every entrepreneur story, right?
That's right. That's right.
It was a very interesting time in my life. I'd lived in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for 5 months, helping a company to launch operations down there, which ultimately failed. And I found myself back here in Minnesota, where I am now, literally sleeping on my sister's couch, trying to figure out what's next. What am I going to do here? And I came across this ad on Craigslist, believe it or not, when Craigslist was a thing. This was been like back in 2006, I think.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And this ad said work 3 days a week and make $10,000. So of course I'm like, yeah, right. But hey, I had to inquire. Like the curiosity was getting to me. And so I was really introduced to this concept of one-to-many selling. Because everything that I had done prior to this was, kitchen table to kitchen table, sitting down, delivering a 1, 2, 3, maybe some 4-hour presentation to try to ultimately close the deal. And it was like inventing fire. Seeing this for the first time, I walked into a room of a group of people, and a gentleman who had placed the ad was actually delivered a presentation, and then he asked for appointments to meet with those that wanted to know like what the cost was or what the next step was. And he got 7 appointments out of a room of like 24 people. And I was like, what the heck? What have I been doing? And so it was an eye opener of like leveraging time, marketing dollars, delivering one presentation and then only meeting with those that want what's next, right? Or want to hear more. And that's when I was like, again, broke as a joke. But I did have a credit card. And so I took some of those concepts of what he used, developed my own marketing pieces, paid for it on a credit card. And I did my first event. This would have been July of 2011. and I made a few sales out of it, and I kept reinvesting back into the business. And fast forward the following 6 months to the end of that year, I had done 2.1 million in sales. And so it was like, okay, this thing actually works. And the next year I went into just recruiting mode. And by the end of that year, I had 34 sales teams across 26 states. And we did 12 million. And that was really the realization that, okay, the product or service, whatever it was that I was selling was irrelevant. Morally and ethically, it had to be good. But it was really the system that worked so well. And so when you mentioned the, $250 million, that is through multiple different companies, different products, but every single one of those I started from scratch. And every single one we've taken from 0 to 7. A couple of them hit 8 figures within the first 10 months of each, just by implementing them into this marketing and sales system that we've developed here. And so, yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. I love it. I love marketing. I love sales. And this is really just kind of the merge of those, to get, really to reach the masses, right? But one thing that I think that it does so well is that it's a predictable, it's a sustainable, and ultimately a scalable selling system for companies to implement into their marketing efforts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing 6 months, $2 million, and, a couple rounding errors here, a year later, you got this, one at 7 figures, 8 figures. So let's not bury the lead. So what kind of, Harry Potter like magic or drug induced strategy do you have here? This sounds exciting.
Well, it sounds a lot more exciting than it actually is. It's very, very simple, man. And I think that's important for again, sustainability and predictability. I do a ton of direct mail, a ton of direct mail. I've tried everything, under the sun when it comes to like marketing, but the highest return on results, or investment, if you want to call it that, is direct mail. And so we send direct mail direct to consumers. Our system works really, really well with a product or a company that's direct to consumer, not necessarily B2B. So we're marketing direct to that consumer. It does need to be high ticket. I do say that if you're selling a $48 real estate course with no additional lifetime value to that client, we are not the system for you. And so, and high ticket because it does take money to do this, right? We're spending thousands of dollars on marketing. We invite people out to a free dinner. Financial advisors have been doing this for years. I'm be the first to say I didn't invent this process. I do think we've perfected it into multiple different verticals. I mentioned financial advisors, but we work in the healthcare space. We work in home remodeling, construction. The first company that I did this with, we sold insulation, LED lighting.
Ooh,
again, things
sexy.
that I still to this day, I do not know what the R stands for and R value of insulation.
Right.
But I've sold millions of dollars of it. Right. And so it is it's pretty simple, but it is, there's a lot of intricacies to it to do it well, to have it, continually. My analogy is usually if I go to the casino and I know for every third quarter that I put in, I'm going to get $1 back. Why would I ever stop? And that's really what this system actually is for folks.
Wow. Old school mail.
I know. I love
like
it.
Free dinners. So are these kinds of
newsflash? Everybody listening, he doesn't have to do everything. Doesn't have to happen on Meta. Right?
I'm now picturing this, and I'm getting kind of excited about it. So I'm picturing you sending out your letters saying, "Come have a free dinner and hear about insulation," right? and like 15 people show up for that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But obviously, being a marketer, we're not saying come hear about insulation. We're talking about the benefits of the benefits of the benefits, right? It's we hear the old analogy. People don't buy a hammer because they want a hammer. They want to hang a picture in their house, right? And it's not even that they want to hang a picture in their house, but they want their home to be more inviting, right? Or comforting, right? And so we speak to those things like, come learn how to make your home warmer in the summer. warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer, certainly lower utility bills, things along those lines, to speak to that. And then when they come on out, then we're able to present, because I have an audience that, they're there to eat dinner, of course. That's that's the hook of how I'm getting them there.
Man, free food.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
yes.
I don't care how well off you do. Everybody likes a free meal.
They do. It is funny though, to me. I just said this the other day to a buddy. I was like, man, you couldn't pay me to come out to one of these events for a free meal, but we've done hundreds of millions of dollars doing it, because I'm not my customer, right? So I think it is just understanding who that true client is, or that customer, speaking to them in their language, right, and ultimately getting them to show up. And it's I mentioned the direct mail, and that does usually, people are like, "Are you kidding me?" And I love it when they say that, or I've even heard like direct mail is dead, and I love it. Like, people say that, and it leaves the mailbox less cluttered on my end, right? So direct mail is dead, everybody.
Yeah,
let me do my marketing there.
Yeah.
Don't we know it? Yeah.
Okay, so what's the best restaurant or meeting place to hold these things? I am partial to Applebee's. It's right down the street from us. But is there like a secret? Is it like Olive Garden or nothing? Or what's the secret?
There is a secret. I mean, definitely, I guess it's not a secret, but there is a tactic, if we want to call it that. And it is, a lot of people will do events like in country clubs or event centers and rooms. And the reality is, if you're going to go to, we're inviting people to a neutral environment, number one, right? So don't do these in your clinic or your office or things like that. We want to bring them to a neutral environment, because it's less, they're not feeling like they're coming to be sold. Right. Like, I know that's our intent. Right. But I want them to be comfortable. And so if I'm going to a rural market, right, in Indiana, let's say I was going to Richmond, Indiana, I would pick, like, find a local, is there a locally owned one that people in the community actually know these people? Do they have a private room? Obviously we certainly need that. Are they going to be open for the specific time slots? And there's, a little bit of science behind that of when to do the events as well. So yeah, it is there. There's definitely, and I've done it all, right. And I still, if the only place to do it at the local country club, we'll do it there. But we have kind of a good, better, best type of choice if we have the option.
Yeah. Now, Kristen and I, over the years working in politics, we've hosted dinners before. And we've had good ones and we've had disasters.
Yeah.
If you've hosted hundreds of these, which sounds like you might have in the last few years, you've got to have a good horror story where, like, you showed up and the place was on fire, or somebody got off chicken or something. What's the craziest thing that's happened at one of these restaurants?
No, not food poisoning. That would be terrible.
That would be terrible.
Oh, that's happened.
Oh no.
Man,
here's a coupon.
We've had people literally die in our events.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not a great story. That is a horror story, right?
Yeah. That's, oh my.
It's sometimes you show up and the restaurant lied. Where's the private room? It's like, oh no, you guys can just do it right over here in this section. It's like, no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there are lots of horror stories, lots of, things to avoid that I've learned over the past, 15 years and doing this. So we do everything in our power to avoid those things, and how we ask questions and booking the venues and things like that. But snowstorms, man, it's you name it. There's some wild things that can happen at these things for sure.
Yeah. Well, this just adds a little excitement to this. There's some people out there right now thinking, I should do this for my business. But if I tell them, exciting things happen, they're more likely to do it. There's good drama. In addition to selling $250 million worth of stuff, that's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a business lesson in here. Kristen alluded to it before, but we're also obsessed with, well, maybe I should do what Alex Hermosi did and spend $16 million and do $100 million in one day, and lots of ads with green people and all this weird stuff. But sometimes it's the most boring things that just work.
It just depends, right? There's no one answer. At least we don't think so.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And if it ain't broken, there's nothing to fix, right? But it's easy for entrepreneurs to chase that next kind of shiny object thing because everybody wants to be Alex Hormozy, right? But nobody wants to put in the work that he actually does. And so they think just like taking his magic course, like they're going to implement all these things and it's just going to happen. It's like he's an overnight success that took years and years and years to actually build that out. And so I think whatever the listener's product is, whatever the service is, the reality is you can have the greatest product in the world. You can have the greatest service in the world. But if nobody knows about it, you're running a hobby. It ain't a business, right? And it's like, how do you have that consistent flow of leads and ultimately sales into your business that leads that convert to sales? Because if you don't, you're not helping anybody in the process either, right? And so I think it's important to be able to differentiate yourself from all the commodities, because most products and services out there, you can get them from 14 other companies down the street. Why would they get it from you? And that's a big component to our process as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. So when you're doing this stuff now, right? And we alluded to this, right? You've got your podcast. I know you've written a series of books. Tell us a little bit about switching gears, what does it mean to you to be a kingdom-minded entrepreneur?
Yeah, great question. I mean, even to give a little backdrop on this, my idea I jokingly say to people, I had given my life to entrepreneurship at the age of 15, but I committed my life to Christ at the age of 16. And God took me on a journey because I had a very unique mindset of, what I thought success was. Maybe not unique, very worldly mindset of what I thought success was, right? Because I wanted to be, boil it down, I want to be rich, man. I want to do what I want, when I want, where I want, with who I want, how I want. And I knew if I had a lot of money, I could do those things. And so that was my pursuit. And unfortunately, I did a lot of stupid things in that process as well. And surrounded myself with not great people, went through a divorce. So yeah, we've made millions of dollars, right? We've helped a lot of people, but 6 years ago in 2019, man, I was at the peak of our life financially, but I was spiritually bankrupt. And I had never felt more unfulfilled in my entire life. And I just thought like, man, is this really what life is about? Just building a business, making money, going on trips, we could do cool things. But I was just so unfulfilled. And for the first time in a long time, I started to cry back out to God. And I opened the Bible for the first time in a long time. And I, at the time, I think the mindset that I had built was in order to be a good Christian, you had to be broke, you had to be broken, you had to be defeated. And unfortunately, that was, to no one's fault but my own. But when I grew up, I grew up in small town, South Dakota. Every quote unquote Christian that I knew, that's who they were. They were broke, broken, and defeated. And I struggled with this concept, or just what I believe God truly has for us is to live. He says that he came to give us abundant life, right? And it's not necessarily everybody should make a quadrillion dollars, but what does it mean to actually live abundantly? And I just thought, man, is success even something that's in the Bible? Is it even there? And that's the first word that I looked up when I cracked this thing back open again. And it brought me.
I love the honesty. I love the honesty there. Okay, let's look this up. Making money. Success. Yeah. And because if I'm honest, that was the God in my life, right? And I think this is the God of a lot of quote unquote Christians. They say that Jesus is Savior, but is he actually Lord of your life? And when I looked up the word success, it brought me to Joshua 1:8, which says, meditate on this book of the law. Do not let it depart from your mouth so that you may do what it says, which I think is a part of a lot of Christians fail to do. And then it says, and then you will be prosperous and successful. And I thought, man, I could do that. Book of the law. Okay. So first 5 books here, let me dive into this thing. And God really started to work in my heart. And then I wanted to seek out mentors. I figured, man, there's got to be other people out there that are struggling with this. And as I scanned the internet, most every
I had a lot of mentors and part of many masterminds, but most of them were, none of them were foundationally what I was looking for. And so the ones that I did look for, I realized there's a lot of Christian groups out there, but they were all like gray-haired men sitting around having coffee. And I'm like, man, that ain't for me. I'm ready to run. I'm a sprinter. And so, out of this, I started just to kind of raise my hand, like, hey, does anybody else have this desire or drive to, like, I do feel like we know that it's God that's given us the ability to create wealth. And if it's him that's given it to us, how do we do that? And like I said, started to raise my hand. And it turns out there's a lot of other individuals out there with that same heart and desire. And so that was really the birthing of what we know as the King's Council, which, to come back to your original question, Kristen, what is a kingdom entrepreneur? I think you gotta break down the root word of kingdom. Number one, Jesus is king. Jesus is king. And the suffix of that word is from the word domain, the DOM of it. And domain, it's like this eminent territory, this protected territory, where someone rules and reigns. And so is Jesus is he your king, right? Does he rule and reign? Does he actually make the decisions in your life? And that is an individual discussion, or heart check, I think, that people have to have. And if the answer is yes to that, we can then talk about being a kingdom entrepreneur, right? And an entrepreneur, the root word of entrepreneur, I love the like etymology and the meaning of words. It's a French word, which all it means is it's entreprendre, right? Pardon my French on that, but
that sounded great.
It just means to undertake, right? And so I believe at the core, man and woman being created in God's image, at the core, I believe we're all entrepreneurs. But I do believe that society and culture has suppressed that extensively to teach it out of us, right? And so as an entrepreneur, as a kingdom entrepreneur, is Jesus the king? Is he rule and reign in your life? And are you willing to undertake that task at hand? So I believe you can be a stay-at-home mom entrepreneur. Are you willing to undertake that? You can be an electrician entrepreneur, right? You could work at McDonald's and be an entrepreneur if you have that mindset of like, I'm going to undertake this task at hand, no matter what it is. This is my job. I'm going to show up in excellence. And if I do that, I know it's going to lead me to the next step in my journey, right? And we what is it? Proverbs tells us that many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's will that prevails. And if we show up in excellence, and that's our heart's disposition, we will continue to follow the steps or the path that He has for us. And most entrepreneurs that I've met with, that we've coached over the years, it's like, their first business is not their last business. And sometimes everybody.
You mean people like us? They have like this disease, right? They can't.
Yes. Yes. Like everybody wants to. I'm not one of these, but we'll just use this for example. If they want to own a restaurant, it's like they think they've got to, get a $2 million loan and build this restaurant. It's like, no. Why don't we start with a hot dog stand first or a food truck first, right? Why don't we actually take these steps here, prove this thing out versus going into debt, millions of dollars to a business model that I think is broken.
Yeah.
I know. All I can hear is Dave Ramsey. I love where he says like the fastest way to go bankrupt is to own a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yes.
We love ours.
And we say that and we own a little ice cream shop.
We love our ice cream shop. The Dutchtown Dairy Bar, for all who are listening, located at 111 South Kibler Street, New Washington, Ohio. Best ice cream ever.
In Ohio, huh?
Yes, Ohio.
That's where Kurt's from.
That's where I grew up. I'll tell you something about what you're saying about being a kingdom-minded entrepreneur and this idea of success and faith, right? And that's something we've talked about a number of times on the podcast. It's the idols we have in our life that we put in front of God. And as you were talking, I was thinking about how easy it is for our minds to contort and explain away problems when our heart, right? When our heart is it's tuned into success first, God's somewhere second, third, fourth, or fifth. And in our minds, we're sort of justifying it. I've had that experience in my own life, right? And I'm less bothered if my spiritual life feels a little off than if my business feels off. My business feels off. My whole identity.
That I was going to say, it's identity.
Crushed, right?
Yeah.
Things I'm not hearing from God in my quiet time, or I've skipped church a bunch, or I'm not connecting with fellow believers. It's a little off. I'll deal. Right. And it's that sort of tendency we all have to look to idols, and find our identity in other places. And I do think, like you talked about, when you look around though, and you say, okay, what ministry is there out there for a Christian entrepreneur? Now there's some really opening up, right? We've got faith-driven entrepreneur out there. There's C12, there's Convene, there's all sorts of things I think that are kind of really popping up, but there's still a lot more divorce care chapters in local churches than there is, business person groups, right? There's more Dave Ramsey, who we all respect, how to manage your money than there is how to manage your business. And somebody asked me one time, has your pastor ever preached on business and entrepreneurship, or how a businessman? And I don't think I've ever heard a sermon on that, because it's kind of a weird topic.
Feels a little limiting.
How do you talk about that as a pastor, right?
Yeah.
They might talk about careers a little bit,
Sure.
And so I do think that's I'm certainly part of what probably sparked the idea for your King's Council. And so what is that? How is it filling a gap for entrepreneurs? What's that all about?
Hey, business owners, did you know there's 76.5 million faith-based and conservative consumers that are looking to support brands that align with their values?
That's a $5 trillion opportunity. And if you're not tapping into it, you're leaving money on the table. Our new book, Liberty Spenders, is your ultimate guide to reaching this influential audience using conviction-driven marketing.
That's right. We break down real-world strategies that successful brands are using right now to connect with this audience authentically, build trust, and drive long-term business growth.
So if you're truly serious about standing out in today's crowded market, grab your copy today on Amazon or visit libertyspenders.com. And don't miss out on this revolutionary strategy called conviction-driven marketing.
Yeah, well, when we originally started, I didn't really know. And heck, I don't even, still to this day, like I'm still working this out, right? Like, God, what do you really want to do with this community? So, I mean, we started out as really kind of a coaching community. I'd consulted with companies, through our dinner seminar model, social dynamic selling. Like I've consulted, but I'd never been like a coach, right? And so I had to learn a lot through this. And I think the biggest thing is when it comes to the individual, a lot of it is the mindset that they take on. And again, I developed that mindset. I think a lot of people in the church body of Christ all over the world have developed and wrestle with this or struggle with this of like, should I, right? Could I, right? And also it's just like when we see people who are extremely wealthy, they're usually not of God, right? There's not that many. We could name a handful of companies that are at least you see, in the news, right? Or on social media all the time. And it's like, why is it? My struggle is like, God, why are they doing so well financially when I look at the Bible and I look at this thing as our operating manual, right? Like so if I'm looking at it, like I'm gonna follow the original creator, the original entrepreneur, I think is God himself. Like he undertook this task at hand that he did not need to, right? But he had a vision. I'm speaking of God himself, like had a vision, a heart's desire, the pain worth it, right? His vision gave pain purpose of knowing, like if he knew we were gonna, Adam and Eve were gonna, fall in the garden at that quick, like why would he still go through it? And it was his vision, I think, was so powerful that he wanted relationship with us, so much so to the fact that he was willing to literally send his son and die on the cross for us to see that vision through. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we should have a gut check sometimes, like, is your vision that powerful? right? Is it just like, oh, I think I could make money doing this and I'll give it a try? Or is there a larger purpose or a reason behind it? And what I developed in this process, I can't even say I developed it. What I think God has given us in Genesis is this 7-day of creation blueprint, right? Of how he created everything. And so that was the first book that I had written was really on that. And it was, I mean, I went deep dive into this and was fascinated with just God's timing on things and why he created certain things in the order that he actually did and how one thing led to the other. And I think it is a blueprint that we should follow, whether you're looking to build a successful business or a fulfilling life in general. Genesis chapter 1 is where you should start. And that's really what we started to coach on and now are, reaching out to churches that want to have I don't know, I was going to say a vertical, but more so of a place for their entrepreneurs, to have resources to be able to do this thing from a biblical worldview, versus just, getting frowned upon. Because unfortunately, a lot of people in church life, if we want to call it, think entrepreneurs are greedy and they're just money hungry and they don't care about things of God. And it's like baloney. Right. We're doing this who's funding all those things. Right. And there's an ultimate purpose and a reason and why I think entrepreneurs, when we come alongside pastors, when we come alongside organizations, and we can actually be the extension of the church, meaning, hey, we're going to fund those things, or we're going to set up businesses or entities that are creating revenue streams for missionaries. Like that's my true hearts in this, is to raise up entrepreneurs that have a vision bigger than themselves, bigger than providing for their family, but it's a kingdom vision. There's an eternal mindset that people have to really understand and take on, of like, why do we strive to go make the 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures and beyond? And it's not to make a name for myself, but it's to advance the kingdom here on earth. And that I think is what really needs to be spoken to for entrepreneurs, and stewarded, if I can say that, because I think it is something that we're maybe have been thought was I shouldn't talk about this in church because it's not godly. And it's like, heck no, man. God created us to be creators. The original creator. Before we learn anything about God in the Bible, it says that he was a creator, and he is a working God. And this is something that we are called to do, as the 60, 70, 80, however many years that he's given us here on this earth. Man, I want to go out the same way Charlie did, and like he was working, he was fulfilling his purpose. And that to me is really what success is about, is not how many businesses did you build, what things did you even fund, but were you obedient to purpose? That to me is truly what success as a kingdom entrepreneur actually is. And it took a long time to get me to that place in position. But that's why we're called to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. We got to work it out, man.
Well, I love it. And of course it strikes, we're very aligned, of course, because that's what we're so passionate about helping these people do, is these business owners who are excited about growing, and we're helping them with a strategy on how to do that. And for me, it's been really inspiring, just because, like you said, there are a lot of just incredible visionary entrepreneurs, business owners who are doing amazing things. And to be able to come alongside them and say, okay, let's help you grow exponentially. Let's help you have a greater impact. Again, not because we're just trying to make more money ultimately, but it's what that money's going to do. It's what is the ultimate outcome that you're seeking. And so, I can't let this go on also without making a quick comment, because I do think there's
here it comes.
Well,
I don't know,
there's of course truth in what you said. I'm sure there are some people in church who have concerns about business owners or think there's greed involved. Just like all of us have thoughts that probably aren't always true and correct. But I will say, to me, my response to some of that is, well, what have they seen? What fruit are they seeing from the business owner, the people in business that they know? Because you commented about people that are doing really well and who aren't. So to me, what my reaction to that is why we have to step up and be more bold in speaking about our faith and making it more transparent, and thinking about how we can use the platform that God's given us to be salt and light, and to change the environment that we're in. So anyway,
I love that.
I couldn't help it,
Yeah,
but I had to say that because I don't want the message to be like, well, people don't understand us. That's true. A lot of them probably don't, but also, okay, it's on us then, right? It's on us to change that and to be more.
I don't think I could pull this off very well, but preach it, sister.
No, you can't. But I appreciate the support.
Yeah, I don't have the spunk for that. But I think I like what you were talking about with your first book and with where you're talking about Genesis in your first book. You're now almost ready to launch your third book. So what's 1, 2, and 3? You've got a trilogy here. Is that the last? Are you going to do a trilogy, or are you? What's in book 3? How does book 2 and book 1 connect?
Yeah, so we call this the Kingdom Entrepreneur series, and I thought it was going to be 3. I had a pretty solid vision of like because I wanted to chunk these up into consumable things because entrepreneurs were busy, right? It's like, I want to read something, I want to apply it. I want to read it, I want to apply it. And that's why I'd originally broken these up into 3. But yeah, through the process of this, like, I have a lot more ideas. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if anybody even likes this stuff. But that's my hope and intent. The first one, we called it, the Kingdom Entrepreneur, the 7-day blueprint, right? Which is God's proven template of like if you're going to create anything, follow this template. And I really break it down of what he was doing on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And I found myself always rushing to day 5 of, us, or even, probably day 5 where I'm like rushing to what I would call momentum. Nobody even understands what that means now. But when you read the book and you start to understand what God was doing in each of those days, it makes complete sense, right? It's like, it's a business plan. And the second book, was really just more about being, called to create. I believe that God has called all of us to co-create with him. Again, the original creator, and he's given us this mandate to be fruitful, to have dominion. What does it mean to multiply and have dominion? Well, understand we've got to be fruitful first, and being able to walk that out. And so I dive into a lot of just like about entrepreneurship in general in there. But also I start to tease on really like where money is going. And when we realize that it's God that gives seed to the sower, in 2 Corinthians, it tells us that it's like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are eating their seed and not continually sowing. And the third book is really going to be solely on money and finances. And, I believe it is God's call to increase and what I call the multiplication mandate that he's given us. And so, I really broke it down into four kind of topics of ownership, meaning God owns everything. Stewardship, right? It's our job to steward literally everything, but I boil a lot of it down to our money and finances in there. Worship, and believe it or not, I believe this is all about the tithe. And it is it's an act of obedience to him. Cause my life changed radically when I committed to tithing. That was my first 7-figure year, by the way. And it wasn't more of it was more of my heart's disposition towards it. And I think that's what it is. And God's going to do way more with the 90% than what we could do with the 100%. I've seen that time and time again in my life and in others in our community. And then into kingship, right? So ownership, stewardship, worship, and kingship, and principles, kingdom principles of what it means to actually steward those finances well, but simple laws of sowing and reaping. We've all heard of those, but what does scripture really mean behind that, and how to operate in what I believe is our kingship here on earth? Because scripture says that we are priests and kings. And when we walk this out with this authority that God's given us, I believe the world could be changed. Because the reality is if you even look at the numbers here in America, if every Christian just tithed, there's like 400 and I did all the math on this. There's like over $400 billion left over, and it would take care of every known issue on earth. So that the problem isn't resources. It's not a lack of resources. It's a lack of stewardship, right? And if we would come back to just these understanding of what, God's plan was and the intent behind these, I believe kingdom entrepreneurs will change the world. But
Amen.
It's going to come into complete surrender, submission to him, obedience to him, intimacy with him, and then fruitfulness will actually take place. And so, that's what book 3 is about, all packaged together into the Kingdom Entrepreneur series.
Well, I'm excited for you. That sounds amazing. And I don't turn off the spigot. If you're feeling like more stuff's coming, you think you need book 4 and 5, you just keep on going.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
I like the thought about starting with the idea that the money's not ours in the first place.
Yeah, that's right.
I've been thinking about that this last week about, we got a bunch of decisions to make about, some real estate we're in, some other stuff, all of which seem to want to cost money. In the bill, the bills keep poured in. It's like, hey, you need a handicapped access to this. Oh, by the way, you need windows, but the Historical Preservation Commission says they ought to be done a certain way. And I'm stressed about it. And I realized at one point, I'm stressed about it because I think this money's mine. And I think I'm the source of it. And so it feels like all this weight. And the moment I thought, you know what, this isn't my money anyway. Not to say that, maybe we don't do the handicap access. We don't know yet. But it's not my money. It's God's money. It's his choice to make. And he has a plan and a design here. And when I stop thinking of it, it's mine. It was like that, for me this week. This is not mine.
No, we're just here to steward.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going to say, Christian. It's like, yes, it's not yours, it's his, but he's given it to you to steward well. Right. And so this is where we get to make decisions, right? And seeking first the kingdom, knowing that it can make, I could make a wrong decision with it. But if I'm Matthew 6:33, seeking first the kingdom, I know that he's going to take care of everything else. Right. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, listening, it's like sometimes we stop making decisions for fear of making the wrong decision. But at the end of the day, if you're straddling the fence on should I do this, should I do that? Obviously, we need to be spirit led and like have a confidence in it. But the reality is, if your prayer is God, give me clarity on this, I stopped praying that way. And this is how I used to pray as well. It's like, I just need clarity on this decision, Lord. And I switched it to, Lord, give me faith. Give me faith for this decision, because if I have clarity, I no longer need to operate in faith. And scripture says that anything done not in faith is sin, which is like a mind, like I'm still wrestling with this. Like anything done not in faith is sin. And so I believe we are called to take what the world would call risks, or what I would call steps of faith, right? I think that what the enemy wants us to do is straddle this fence. The problem is the enemy owns the fence. And we just have to make a decision to get off one side or the other. And this is where the sovereignty of God always works out, right? As long as morally and ethically we're within in his will in that standpoint, I know the sovereignty is going to work out, because even if I'd made the wrong decision, at least I found out quicker so I can get on the other side of the fence. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a call to action more than anything else for entrepreneurs. It's like, just make a decision, right? What's your gut telling you? Most of my gut feelings is the Holy Spirit. Like, it's like, unless I ate a bowl of chili the night before, like I know like what I should trust my gut. Right. And if it was a wrong decision, no big deal. Did I die? No. Yeah. Right.
When all else fails, you pray to fail fast so that you can quickly recalibrate and go another direction.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I think there's a lot to that. And there's a sort of combination of, for me, the insight was I can be okay failing because I know it's not my money. Not that I don't care about it. I'm here to steward it, but there's the storehouse of it is fuller than I could ever imagine. And, God has designs. So I think that's such an important, these kinds of topics are so important for business owners, and they're hard even, to your point about the King's Council, there's not a lot of places to go. And speaking of that, you've got your podcast too called the King's Council Podcast. So that's another place people can learn and dive into deep topics. So what did you start that? How's the podcast going? We were talking earlier, your background, for those watching on video, he's got a really awesome background for the King's Council Podcast. So he's at least doing that with an eye to excellence. So how's that going and how do people find it?
Yeah, I started it in 21. Prior to that, I had a podcast called the Sales Conversion Podcast. I started that only as a lead generator to get new clients. Totally as like, but I learned a lot through that process, and I started to learn how to talk and interview people and things. And through the start of the King's Council, I felt like, all right, it's time to use this platform to speak truth, and that's what we've done. I did take an entire year off this past year, which has been amazing because I think there are seasons of life, and this was a season for me to really focus on family. Because I think that's the first thing I need to steward well, my relationship with the Lord, and then my family is number two. My businesses and ministry and everything else, I think falls below that. And we adopted a baby boy, and the past year has just been solely focused on that, and still running my
congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
That's amazing.
We just launched the podcast again here this past year, this past week, and I'm really fired up. It's myself. Oftentimes I have my ministry partner, I'm going to call it, within that, Christian Edwards. He leads we do a Wednesday morning Bible study for entrepreneurs. And yeah, we just talk about biblical truth. It's not necessarily about business, but all of it will be applied to business. If Jesus is Lord of your life, we talk a lot about like, how do we do this life here on earth, and do it with excellence. Right. And I think, you mentioned the podcast drop back. It's like, I mean, I didn't do it. I got a guy that came in because, dude, I don't even hang the pictures in my house.
Same.
Right. My wife has to hang the pictures in my house, but it is. I do think that is what Christians are called to, is excellence. Like, especially in the products and services they're putting out, aligning with people like you that are able to do excellently what I can't do. Right. And I think that's just a picture of the body of Christ. We've all been given different gifts and talents and abilities. But how do I be obedient to that purpose, right? In excellence. So whatever I do, if it's the audio on my mic or the background that I have, or any of those things, what I want to put out to the public is I want it to be excellent, because I am an ambassador for Christ. I'm could be the only, image bearer of Jesus that person sees or hears. And so, and this is where I think a lot of Christian owned companies maybe have fallen short. Like I remember buying, when my first Christian apparel, I washed it once and it was like, I threw it away. It's like, I'm never buying that again. You're trying to represent Christ, right? And that's what you're putting out. Like, give me a break. And so, yes. And I think that is just a call to other companies too, or consumers, when you do purchase products and purchase services, like, you should buy them. You should choose to sow on good soil and buy them from those people. But if you're not putting out excellent products and services, don't expect them to buy them from you. Right.
Exactly.
And so it's
values alone is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And you're right. And it goes back to, what is the experience people are having? Because I know I had to deal with this, where I felt like I had some interactions, right, with other Christian business owners, and they did not go well. And I remember thinking, this is before I had a business of my own even, and just thinking, and then you see other people. In fact, just this last week, I saw some commentary where someone was asking about, was in some local Facebook group asking for recommendations for a preschool or something. And people are like, stay away from this Christian place, and I thought, oh, that's rough, So you're exactly right. We have to make sure that what we do is with excellence.
Absolutely. Well, we have just enough time left to hit our lightning round. Yes, so here we go. We like to ask every guest the same 3 questions, 90 seconds we have on each one, as best as you can, because at least one of them is pretty weighty. But
There's no buzzer.
50 years from now, you're laying in bed, looking back at your life. How do you know that you've been successful or you've had a life well lived?
Yes, I think that's going to be, again, taking on an eternal mindset. This has been a shift for me in the past just 5 years of what really does it matter of what I build and do on this earth. The only things that I've come to realize, maybe I'm missing something here, but the only thing that we can truly take with us when we leave our flesh suits here are the character of who we have become in that process, right? If that's a part of our sanctification process, and then the relationships that we have, right? And so when I'm, hopefully 80, 90 years old, thinking back on those things, that's what it's going to be. And I think of even, Charlie Kirk, it's, if you think of the tens of thousands of people that are going to show up to that memorial and the impact, like it's not about Charlie Kirk, right? But he was murdered because he had unwavering faith. And I think, if you're willing to die for something, you're willing to stand for anything. And that's where he was at. And this is, I think, where God has gotten me to in my life. It's like, I don't care. It's not about how much money I've made, how many businesses I've built, but how many lives were impacted in that process. Are any of them going to be with me into the eternal? Because that's all that really matters to me at this point.
Yeah. Now for something completely different. 90 seconds on anything that's captured your attention lately, maybe taking you down the rabbit hole, hobby, sports team, good book you've read, something like that.
Whew, this is a good one. Oh man. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I'm going to say that. I work out. I like to work out. And I like to read. I've been in the book of James for the past few weeks. And I think this is something that has been, I don't know if it's like revelation to me, but it's like the word of God is not meant just to be read, but it's meant to be studied. And it, like really understanding and understand what the root meaning of that is. And I love the book of James in the Bible just because it's not to any specific church, but it's to believers as a core. Like, how do we walk this thing out in life, right? Like, how do we actually be doers of the word and not just spewing things out of our mouth, right? And so, I think it is that application aspect that a lot of, again, speaking to Christians in general, if we study the word and understand that, the sword of the Spirit is the word of God, and it is meant to be used, not just read. And if we keep the sword in our sheath all our life, were we actually used here on this earth? And so, it's just me. I guess that the hobby I would have is just, how do I walk that out in life? How do I become, ultimately just that eternal representation of what I believe God wants me to be here on this earth while he has me here.
Yeah. It's a good use of time.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it is. Yes. Now the last one's the easier one. This is 90 seconds of gratuitous self-promotion or marketing. So maybe it's the podcast, maybe it's your book, but let's do 90 seconds on who are you looking for, or who should be looking for you? Who do you help? How do you help them? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would say solo entrepreneurs. How about wantrepreneurs? If you are in a business, or if you're working for a company, there's no shame in that at all. I believe God has you in every specific time and purpose in your life for a reason. But if he's given you that desire, like that, you feel like there's something more and you're just not sure what, those are people that I love to have conversations with. And because, again, I believe God has created us to create, but culture and society has done nothing but indoctrinate us since the 1900s to go to school, go to recess, go to lunch. They're literally creating employees from the time they turn 5 And then we expect entrepreneurs just to happen and be a thing. And no, that's not how it happens. Right. And so if you're a entrepreneur or an entrepreneur that's just kind of, getting through the motions, not really sure what to do, those are people that we love to work with. And when I say work with, I mean, I have 0 coaching programs, nothing that we do I charge money for at this point. But Wednesday morning, we have a Bible study. It's kingscouncilbiblestudy.com. Christian Edwards leads that. We've been going through the book of Revelation, which is like heavy, baby. Like,
I was going to say, yeah, you better have your
he's been doing it for the last 9 months. And we're at like Revelation 22, I think. And so,
you're close to the end then.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yes.
So kingscouncilbiblestudy.com. And if you just want to be a part of our community, we're going to be doing some events again coming up. At the core, foundationally of what the King's Council is if you want to operate in excellence mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially, then you got to surround yourself with like-minded people. I don't say like-minded because I think if you only put yourself in situations where people all think the same, it's hard to grow in those situations. Like-minded, though, means, hey, I have a growth mindset, right? And I'm here and I want to advance. And those are the type of people that again, we love to serve. We have tons of resources, courses, things like that, again, that we give free for people to just be a part of the community and start to walk this thing out. So call it more of like we disciple entrepreneurs more than anything else. Intentionally choose to operate in excellence in those 5 areas. Because you even said it, Kurt. It's like sometimes it's like my business is crushing, but spiritually I might be a little, down, or my emotionally I'm just like wiped out. And it's like, no, we are called to operate in those 5 areas. And how do we do that? Right? How do we do that well? And I think at any point in time when God calls us to do something, we should be available and ready to do it. And for some of those entrepreneurs, and you have that little bit of inkling or that calling, it's like, now's the time. Take action. Just go to joinkingscouncil.com. You can get on our email list, and we'll get you everything you need to start this entrepreneurial journey.
Awesome. Yeah. I love it. There's definitely a need for it.
Yes. And thank you, Rylee, so much for joining us. And he gave us a couple of places to get in touch with him. I'll add that you can go to RyleeMeek.com, and Rylee is RYLEE, RyleeMeek.com. You can also go to joinkingscouncil.com, like he mentioned, to be part of his community. And then are you on YouTube? Where are you on your podcast?
Yeah, we're YouTube, all the platforms. I don't even know all the podcast platforms. We stream live every Friday on Rumble. With good friends with Graham Allen. So the Dear America channel, we bring a biblical perspective to the Dear America channel on Rumble as well. But otherwise, we're on the King's Council Media is where you'll find us on YouTube.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. Well, thanks. It's been a real treat. You're definitely high energy, and I love it. It's easy to talk to people who bring that. So I appreciate it. For those of you joining and listening, we appreciate your time. We know how valuable it is. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future. Until next time.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Liberty Spenders Podcast. If you're a business owner, we hope today's conversation gave you valuable insights on how to grow your business.
If you enjoyed the show, do us a favor. Hit like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. It really helps us reach more entrepreneurs and leaders like you who are ready to make an impact.
And write something flattering, because I read them all. Don't forget to grab your copy of Liberty Spenders too, available now on Amazon and at libertyspenders.com. It's packed with proven strategies to help you reach the 76.5 million consumers who are looking for brands that share their values.
We'll see you next time as we continue exploring how to grow your business with purpose and conviction.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode and the one after that.